Christmas dinner. I'm sitting at a perfectly arranged table, wearing my best gray suit, and sporting a fresh yellow-purple bruise under my left eye that throbs every time I blink. My daughter is filming the whole thing for TikTok. Of course she is. "So yeah, the old man got what he deserved," Madison says into her phone, tilting her head at that perfect influencer angle she's practiced 1,000 times. Her voice has that chirpy, rehearsed quality that makes my teeth hurt. My husband taught him a lesson about respect. While you're here, don't forget to subscribe, hit the hype button, and support this channel with a like. And tell us below, have you ever faced something like this? Cole, the husband, nods from across the table, proud as a rooster. His gym-sculpted arms are crossed over his chest, expensive watch glinting in the candlelight. He's wearing a black turtleneck like he thinks he's some kind of tech billionaire instead of a franchise owner drowning in debt he doesn't even know about yet. I don't speak. I just place a black envelope on the table in front of him. The paper is heavy, expensive, legal weight, the kind that means something. "Merry Christmas, Cole." He stares at it for a moment, confused. His thick eyebrows pull together. Then he picks it up, tears it open with those thick fingers that split my cheekbone 3 weeks ago. His expression fades as he reads. The color leaves his face the way water disappears down a drain. Madison leans over, still filming. "What is it, babe?" Cole's face has gone the color of old snow. His hands shake slightly, making the papers rustle. "Now the real lesson begins," I say quietly. "But let me back up. You need to understand how we got here. You need to understand what it takes to break a man who thinks he's unbreakable. You need to understand that revenge, real revenge, isn't hot. It's cold. It's patient. It's mathematical." 6 months earlier, I was still playing the role of the harmless old man, the retired engineer, the divorced dad who showed up to family dinners with wine and smiled at his daughter's stories about her influencer career and pretended not to notice how hollow she'd become. I had been a senior logistics systems engineer for one of the largest retail chains in the country for 37 years. I understood supply chains, inventory systems, financial flows. I understood how things worked beneath the surface, the invisible infrastructure that kept everything running, the skeleton underneath the skin. Most people don't think about logistics. They just want their packages to arrive on time, their stores to have products on shelves. They don't think about the complex web of contracts, suppliers, transportation networks, payment schedules. They don't think about how fragile it all is, how one broken link can collapse the entire chain. I thought about it every day for nearly 4 decades. After I retired, I did quiet consulting work, nothing flashy. Just enough to keep my mind sharp and my bank account comfortable. Most people assumed I was living on my pension and maybe some modest savings. A comfortable middle-class retirement. Nothing special. They assumed wrong. My ex-wife Diane was the only one who really knew. Not the full extent, but enough. We'd been divorced for 8 years, and somehow the distance had made us better friends than we'd ever been as spouses. She understood me in ways Madison never bothered to try. Diane had emotional intelligence. She could read people. She knew when I was thinking, really thinking, and she knew enough to let me work through things in my own time. Madison, my daughter, my beautiful, vapid, image-obsessed daughter. She'd discovered TikTok 3 years ago and decided it was her calling. Within a year, she had over 1 million followers watching her post about luxury lifestyle tips and glow-up transformations. Teenagers, mostly. Girls who believed that happiness could be purchased, that success meant looking rich on social media. The fact that her luxury was largely funded by my quiet financial backing never made it into the content. The expensive apartment they lived in before the house? I co-signed. The initial investment in her content creation business? My money. The safety net that let her quit her marketing job to pursue influencing full-time? Me. She never mentioned any of that. In her narrative, she was self-made. A hustler, an entrepreneur. She married Cole Merritt 2 years ago. He owned 3 gym franchises, or so he claimed. What he actually owned was a lot of expensive equipment bought with other people's money and a personality built on intimidation and the kind of confidence that comes from never being truly challenged. At first, I tried to like him. I really did. For Madison's sake. I told myself he made her happy. I told myself that maybe his rough edges would smooth out with time, that maybe there was something solid underneath all that posturing. That lasted about 3 months. The first crack appeared at a Sunday dinner in April. Cole was holding court at their dining table, technically my dining table since I'd co-signed the mortgage on their house, though that detail never came up, talking about his business expansion plans. He spoke in that loud, confident way that insecure men use when they want to dominate a room. Madison sat beside him, phone in hand, occasionally filming snippets for her behind-the-scenes content. She was wearing something expensive and form-fitting, her makeup perfect even for a family dinner. Everything was content, everything was performance. "The problem with your generation," Cole said, pointing his fork at me like a weapon, "is you don't understand entrepreneurship. You worked for the same company your whole life, collecting a paycheck. That's not building wealth, that's just surviving." I took a sip of water. The glass was from a set I'd given them as a housewarming gift. "Different times," I said. "Excuses," he said, dismissing my words with a wave. "My generation has to hustle, create multiple income streams, build a brand." He gestured at Madison like she was a prize he'd won. "Look at what Madison's done. She's built an empire from nothing." I glanced at my daughter. She was smiling at her phone screen, adjusting the angle for another shot. The ring light she'd set up on the table cast a flattering glow on her face. "She's worked very hard," I agreed, keeping my voice neutral. "Exactly. And she doesn't need a corporate daddy telling her what to do or when to show up. She's her own boss. That's real freedom. That's real success." Diane, who'd been invited to maintain the illusion of family unity, caught my eye across the table. Her expression said, "Don't. Not worth it." I didn't. But Cole wasn't finished. He never was. Men like Cole don't know when to stop talking. "You should think about what you're going to leave behind, Richard. What's your legacy? A gold watch and a pension? Some savings account with a pathetic interest rate?" "I haven't thought much about legacy," I said. "That's the problem. You should be thinking about how you can help us. Help Madison. Build something real. Something that lasts. Instead of just sitting on whatever you've got saved up, watching it do nothing." There it was. The first real ask. The opening move. I'd been waiting for it, honestly, wondering how long it would take. Madison looked up from her phone, sensing the shift in tone. "Dad's doing fine, babe. He doesn't need to worry about us." "I'm not saying he needs to worry. I'm saying he should want to invest in his daughter's future. In our future. In his grandchildren's future." Madison wasn't pregnant, but Cole liked to imply it was coming. Another way to create obligation. Family invests in family. That's how generational wealth is built. I cut into my chicken carefully. "If you ever need advice, Cole, I'm happy to help." His jaw tightened. A vein pulsed in his temple. "I don't need advice. I need capital. But forget it." He threw his napkin on his plate. "We'll figure it out ourselves, like we always do. Like we have to do, because we don't have anyone in our corner." The manipulation was clumsy, but effective. Madison's face fell. She looked at me with those disappointed eyes, and I could see her mentally filing this away as another example of my failure to support her dreams. The dinner ended early. As I was leaving, Madison walked me to my car. The night air was cool, and she wrapped her arms around herself, shivering in her thin designer top. "Don't take it personally," she said. "He's just stressed about the expansion. The third gym is taking longer to get permits than we thought, and he's worried about the timeline." "I understand." She hugged me, and for a moment, she was my little girl again, 5 years old, sticky fingers from ice cream, looking at me like I could fix anything. Thanks for coming, Dad. I love you. I love you too, sweetheart. I drove home thinking about Cole's words, about legacy, about capital, about how much rope a man needs to hang himself, quite a bit, as it turns out. 2 weeks later, Madison posted a TikTok that went viral. I didn't see it at first. My neighbor Albert Ross showed it to me, apologetic and uncomfortable. He was 72, widowed, and spent too much time on social media because his kids never called. I'm sorry, Richard, but I thought you should know. People are talking about it. The video showed Madison in their kitchen, perfectly lit, perfect makeup, perfect smile. Everything about her was curated, calculated. She'd become very good at this. Story time about why you should never take financial advice from boomers, she began, her voice bright and mocking. So, my dad, love him, but he literally worked for the same company for almost 40 years. Same company. Can you imagine? She laughed, and the sound was like glass breaking. He thinks the way to build wealth is to, save money in a bank account and maybe buy some bonds. Bonds! In 2024. Meanwhile, me and my husband are out here building actual businesses, creating content, investing in real assets. But he wants to give us advice. She made air quotes with her fingers, her face exaggerated with mock confusion. Boomer logic is so funny. They think hard work means showing up to an office and waiting for a gold watch. They literally cannot comprehend entrepreneurship or digital business models. It's like trying to explain TikTok to your grandma. They just don't get it. Their brains can't process it. The video had 3 million views, 14,000 comments, most of them laughing along with her, agreeing, adding their own stories of clueless boomer parents who didn't understand the modern world. I watched it 3 times. Each time I felt something cold and hard forming in my chest, like ice crystallizing around my heart. Not anger exactly. Anger is hot and stupid. This was different. This was clarity. I didn't call her about the video. I didn't text. I just stopped answering when she reached out. After a week, she showed up at my apartment unannounced. Dad, are you mad about the TikTok thing? She was holding a coffee cup from an expensive cafe, wearing athleisure that cost more than my monthly utilities. Her hair was pulled back in a sleek ponytail, her face fully made up, even though it was 10 in the morning. Because it was just content. Everyone roasts their parents online. It's not that deep. It's fine, Madison. You're clearly upset. You haven't answered any of my texts. I'm not upset. I'm just busy. She sat down on my couch uninvited, curling her legs under her like she used to do as a teenager. For a moment, I saw flashes of who she used to be, before the followers, before Cole. Look, if I'd known you'd take it so personally, I wouldn't have posted it. But you have to understand, that's my brand. That's how I make money. I share my real life, including the funny stuff. My audience expects authenticity. I understand, I said. Do you? Because you seem really passive-aggressive right now. And honestly, it's kind of hurtful that you can't be supportive of my career. I looked at her, really looked at her. When had she become this person? This stranger who valued views over relationships, who turned her own father into content, who couldn't see the difference between authenticity and cruelty. Madison, do you know how I helped you buy that house? She blinked, caught off guard by the question. You co-signed, I know, we're grateful. Do you know how Cole got the loans for his gym expansion? He has investors, business partners. Do you know who guaranteed those loans? Her expression flickered. Confusion, then something that might have been concern. What are you talking about? Nothing, never mind. She stood up, irritated now. The moment of vulnerability was gone. You're being weird. Cole said you'd be like this, all bitter and resentful because we're successful and you're just retired. He said you'd try to make us feel bad for doing well. Cole said that? He says you don't respect him. That you look down on him because he didn't go to college or work some corporate job. But he's built more in 5 years than you built in 40, and you can't handle it. I felt that cold thing in my chest expand, spreading through my ribs like frost on glass. You should go, Madison. Dad, please, just go. She left, slamming the door hard enough to rattle the frame and knock a picture crooked on the wall. That night, I started making lists. Real lists. Organized, itemized, the kind you make when you're trying to untangle a disaster thread by thread. Financial connections, contract details, loan structures, every signature I'd ever put on paper, every guarantee I'd made without thinking twice, every invisible thread that tied my money to their lifestyle. And there were so many of them, more than I'd ever consciously registered, more than they had ever known. The house was the biggest one. I was the primary guarantor on the mortgage. Madison had decent credit, but decent doesn't get you a $1.2 million property when your income depends on brand deals and algorithm moods. Cole's numbers from the gyms looked solid in spreadsheets, but banks aren't fooled by glossy pitch decks and confident smiles. Franchise businesses have a failure rate, and lenders never forget it. They needed someone with a proven track record, a stable income history, spotless credit. That someone was me. Then there were the gym equipment loans. 2 of them, separate lenders, separate contracts, both with guarantor clauses. Cole had strutted into those meetings like a seasoned entrepreneur, but the truth was simple. His business was too new, too untested, too dependent on optimistic projections. He didn't qualify for the amounts he wanted. But I did. So I signed. Twice. And the lease on the 3rd gym location. Same pattern, same blind trust. A 5-year commercial lease wasn't something the property management company was going to hand over to a business with no liquidity cushion. They wanted a safety net. They wanted someone with assets, someone who could pay if things went south. That again was me. Their cars, leased through a program that required a guarantor with excellent credit. Madison's BMW, Cole's Mercedes, both tied to my signature. Even the line of credit they'd opened for business opportunities had my name on it. I'd done it all willingly, carefully, thinking I was helping my daughter build a stable life, thinking that maybe if they had a foundation, they'd become better people, thinking that love meant sacrifice. I'd been wrong. 3 days later, Cole showed up at my apartment. He didn't knock. He used the key Madison had, the one I'd given her for emergencies. I was at my desk, going through paperwork, making notes. I heard the door open, but didn't turn around. "We need to talk," Cole said. His voice was hard. "You should have called first." "I don't need permission to look after my wife's interests." He came around the desk, standing too close, using his size to intimidate. He was 3 inches taller than me, and 40 pounds heavier, all of it muscle. His cologne was aggressive, expensive. Everything about him was aggressive. "Madison says you're being difficult, making her feel bad about her success. That's not what happened. She came home crying because you basically called her ungrateful. Do you know how hard she works? How many hours she puts into building her brand? She's up at 5 every morning doing her routine, filming, editing, engaging with followers. She works harder than you ever did, old man." I turned in my chair to face him. "Cole, this is between me and my daughter." "Wrong. When you upset my wife, it becomes my business." He leaned down, hands on the armrests of my chair, caging me in. His face was inches from mine. I could see the pores in his skin, smell the protein shake on his breath. "Here's what's going to happen. You're going to apologize to Madison. You're going to support her career instead of undermining it. And you're going to stop acting like some bitter old man who can't handle that his kid is doing better than he ever did." "I'm not going to do any of that." His face darkened. Red crept up his neck. "What did you say?" I said no. He grabbed my shirt collar, yanking me up from the chair. My glasses went crooked. Listen carefully, old man. You've had your time. Your opinions don't matter anymore. Your generation is done. You're obsolete. So you're going to step back, stay quiet, and be grateful you're even invited to family dinners. Understand? I kept my voice level. Let go of me. Or what? He shoved me backward. I caught myself on the desk, papers scattering. You going to do something? You think you're tough? You think your boomer attitude means anything? Cole, leave my apartment. I'll leave when I'm ready. He stepped closer again. First, you're going to learn some respect. You're going to learn what happens when you disrespect me and my wife. That's when he hit me. It wasn't a slap. It was a hard hit with a closed fist to my left cheek, strong enough to twist my head and make me stagger. I tasted something metallic, and my sight flashed white, then red, before finally settling. When it cleared, Cole was standing over me, breathing hard, his fist still clenched. Now you understand. This is my family, my wife, my house, my life. You're just a guest in it. Act like one. He walked out, leaving the door open. I could hear his footsteps echo down the hallway, then fade. I stayed on the floor for a long time, testing my jaw, feeling the swelling start. Something was broken, maybe a tooth, maybe my cheekbone. It didn't matter. What mattered was the line he'd just crossed. What mattered was that he'd just given me permission to do what needed to be done. I didn't call law enforcement, and I didn't call Madison. I headed to the ER, claimed I'd taken a fall on my morning walk, had x-rays done, and was sent home with pain relief medicine, an ice pack, and a cracked bone that would mend over time. The nurse was kind, middle-aged, with tired eyes. You should be more careful, she said. Falls can be dangerous at your age. I'll remember that, I said. The next morning, Diane called. Madison told me you two had a fight, she said carefully. She says you're not returning her messages. I'm not. Richard. What's going on? I explained it all to her. The recording, the clash, Cole, the punch, and the aftermath. She was quiet for a long time. I could hear her breathing on the other end of the line, processing. Did you call the police? No. Why not? Because that's not how I'm going to handle this. Another long pause. What are you going to do? I don't know yet, but something. Be careful. Cole sounds dangerous. He's not dangerous. He's stupid. There's a difference. Dangerous men think before they act. Stupid men act and think they're invincible. Richard. I have to go, Diane. I'll call you later. I spent the next 3 days at my desk. Old habits from my engineering days kicked in. Break down the system. Find the weak points. Trace the dependencies. Every system has vulnerabilities. Every structure has load-bearing points. Remove the right support, and everything collapses. Madison and Cole's life was built on credit, appearances, and other people's money. The house, my co-signature made it possible. Madison's credit score alone wouldn't have qualified her for that mortgage amount. The bank had been explicit about that. Cole's gym franchises. I'd guaranteed 2 major equipment loans and 1 property lease when his own financials came up short. Their luxury cars, leased through a program that required a guarantor with perfect credit and verified income. Even their credit cards had been easier to get with me as a reference. They thought they were self-made. They thought they'd built this life through hustle and entrepreneurship and 12-hour workdays. They'd built it on my signature, and a signature can be withdrawn. I called my old colleague Gerald Blake. He'd moved into contract law after retiring from our company, more as a hobby than a profession. He was bored in retirement, his wife had passed, and he liked having something to occupy his mind. Smart man. Discreet. We'd worked together for 15 years, and I'd never known him to gossip. Richard, it's been ages. How are you? I need some help understanding my legal options. What kind of legal options? I explained the situation. The loans, the guarantees, the contracts. I didn't mention the punch. That wasn't relevant to the legal questions. Gerald was quiet, processing. I could hear him tapping a pen against his desk, a habit he'd had for decades. So you want to know if you can remove yourself from these obligations? I want to know what happens if I do. Well, that depends on the specific contracts, but generally speaking, if you're a guarantor and you withdraw that guarantee, the lender has to reassess the primary borrower's creditworthiness. If they don't meet requirements, the lender can demand immediate payment, restructure the terms, or call the loan. And if they can't pay, then the lender pursues collection, repossession for secured loans, legal action for unsecured debt. It gets ugly fast. Can I actually withdraw as a guarantor? Most guarantor agreements have exit clauses, yes, but Richard, this would destroy them financially. You understand that? I understand. Another pause, longer this time. May I ask what happened? I told him about Cole, about the punch, about Madison's video. Gerald sighed. Send me copies of all the contracts. I'll review them and let you know exactly where you stand. But Richard, are you sure about this? This is your daughter. I'm sure. All right, send me everything. I'll need a few days. While I waited for Gerald's analysis, I did my own research. I requested copies of all financial documents where I was listed. I compiled statements. I organized everything into folders: house, gyms, vehicles, credit lines, business loans. It was worse than I thought. Cole's gym franchises were barely profitable. He was using revenue from one location to cover shortfalls at another. The third gym, the expansion he was so proud of, hadn't opened yet and was already over budget. He'd taken out a bridge loan using his house as collateral. My house, technically, since I'd co-signed the mortgage. Madison's influencer income looked impressive on paper, 6 figures annually, but most of it went to maintaining the lifestyle she showcased: designer clothes, professional photography, travel to destinations her followers expected. She was spending nearly everything she made to look like she was making more. They were a house of cards, and I was the table they were built on. Gerald called back 4 days later. You can withdraw from every single agreement, he said. Each contract has a guarantor exit clause, though the specific mechanisms vary. For most of them, you'll need to provide written notice to the lender and wait for a reassessment period, usually 30 to 90 days. What happens during reassessment? The lender evaluates whether the primary borrower can sustain the loan independently. They look at income, credit history, debt-to-income ratio, assets. If the borrower doesn't qualify, the lender has several options. Tell me the worst-case scenario. Immediate loan recall, full payment demanded within 30 days. If they can't pay, the lender forecloses on secured assets or begins collection proceedings on unsecured debt. It would trigger a cascade. One loan default would tank their credit, which would trigger reassessments on other credit lines, which would cause more defaults, financial collapse within 6 months. And best case? They find new guarantors or pay off the loans immediately. Neither seems likely from what you've described. How do I start? I'll draft the notification letters. You'll need to send them certified mail to each lender. Richard, last chance to reconsider. Draft the letters. All right, but one more thing. Brace yourself. When this starts, it won't be quiet. They'll know it was you. There will be consequences. I'm counting on it, I said. The first letter went out on a Monday morning. Withdrawal of guarantor status for the house mortgage. Certified mail, return receipt requested. I didn't tell Madison. I didn't tell Cole. I just sent the letter and waited. The bank would receive it, process it, and begin their reassessment. It would take time. I had time. The second letter went out on Wednesday. Equipment loan for Cole's first gym, the third on Friday. Commercial lease for the third location. Over the next 2 weeks, I sent 8 letters total, each one carefully worded by Gerald, each one legally airtight, each one a thread being cut. I didn't feel guilty. I'd read somewhere that guilt requires regret, and I had none. Cole had punched me in my own home. Madison had turned me into content, into a joke for millions of strangers. They'd taken my help and twisted it into something I owed them, something they deserved. They wanted to be self-made. Now was their chance. The first response came 3 weeks later. The bank holding their mortgage sent a letter to both Madison and Cole and copied me. They were requiring updated financial documentation and income verification. Routine reassessment due to changes in guarantor status. I knew Madison had received it because she called me 17 times that day. I didn't answer. She showed up at my apartment that evening. I watched through the peephole as she knocked, waited, knocked again. She was alone. No phone out, no camera. Her face was red, her eyes puffy. "Dad, I know you're in there. Please, we need to talk." I stayed silent. "Dad, what did you do? The bank sent us this letter. They're saying you withdrew as guarantor? That can't be right. There must be a mistake." I watched her through the peephole. "Please open the door. Whatever's going on, we can fix it. I know things have been weird between us, but this is crazy. This is our house. We need you. Need, not want. Need." She knocked again, harder. "Dad, this isn't funny. Open the door." After 10 minutes, she gave up and left. Cole showed up an hour later. He didn't knock politely. He pounded. "Open this door, Richard. Open it now." I sat at my desk, listening. "I know what you're doing. This is illegal. You can't just walk away from contracts. I'll sue you. I'll have you in court." His voice was getting louder. Other apartment doors opened. Mrs. Chen from down the hall told him to be quiet, or she'd call the building manager. "This isn't over," Cole shouted. "You think you can sabotage us? You think you can destroy our lives? I'm not the same person you fought with before. I'm warning you." The threats continued for several minutes before he finally left. I sat very still, listening to the silence, feeling nothing but cold satisfaction. The cascade began in October. The mortgage bank completed their reassessment. Without my guarantee, Madison and Cole didn't qualify for their current loan amount. The bank offered 2 options: find a new guarantor within 60 days or refinance at a higher interest rate with significantly higher monthly payments. They couldn't do either. No one else would guarantee a loan that size for them, and the new payment amount, 42% higher than their current mortgage, was beyond their budget. The bank issued a notice: find a solution within 60 days or face potential foreclosure proceedings. Madison's TikTok videos during this period were telling. Her perfect aesthetic started slipping. Her makeup wasn't quite as flawless. Her backgrounds weren't quite as curated. She posted less frequently, and when she did, the comments noticed. "Are you okay? You seem stressed. Your vibe is off lately." She kept pretending everything was fine, posting about difficult phases, personal development, and rising above negativity, but her followers could tell something was seriously wrong. Influencer culture is brutal. The moment you show weakness, the algorithm turns against you. Engagement drops. Sponsors notice. Her sponsorship with a makeup brand ended quietly. No announcement, just a removal from their partner page. Then the equipment loan came due. The lender, seeing that I'd withdrawn my guarantee and noticing the mortgage issues, accelerated their reassessment. They wanted to know if Cole could sustain the loan independently. He couldn't. The gym equipment was worth less than the outstanding loan balance. The lender demanded payment restructuring, higher interest, shorter term, immediate payment of $10,000 as a good faith deposit. Cole didn't have $10,000 in liquid cash. He'd invested everything in the 3rd location, which still hadn't opened. The permits were delayed. The contractor was behind schedule. Money was flowing out with nothing coming in. He took out a personal loan at a predatory interest rate to make the deposit. I know this because one of the loan officers was Karen Doyle, someone I'd worked with professionally for years. She called me, concerned. "Richard, I shouldn't tell you this, but Cole Merritt came in desperate. He took out a signature loan at 23%. He's drowning, and he's making it worse." "Thank you for letting me know," I said. Is there unresolved conflict between the two of you? You could say that. Be careful. Desperate men do stupid things. She wasn't wrong. In early November, Cole tried to open the third gym anyway, permits incomplete, hoping that revenue would stabilize his finances. The city shut him down within a week. Fines were levied. The landlord, nervous about the commercial lease I'd guaranteed and then withdrawn from, threatened termination unless Cole could provide a new guarantor. He couldn't. The lease was terminated. Cole lost his security deposit, $15,000, and faced additional penalties for breaking the contract. The equipment he'd purchased for that location sat in a storage unit, accruing monthly fees he couldn't afford. His other two gyms started feeling the pressure. Word got around in the small business community. Vendors wanted payment up front instead of on terms. Insurance premiums increased. Staff sensed instability, and some of his best trainers left for more secure positions. Madison's mental state deteriorated. She posted a video, not her usual polished content, but something raw, filmed in her car, crying. "I just want to be real with you guys for a second," she said, her voice breaking. "Life is really hard right now. There's some family stuff happening that I can't talk about, but it's been devastating. I'm trying to stay positive, but sometimes it feels like everything is falling apart." The video went viral, but not the way she wanted. The comments were split between genuine sympathy and schadenfreude. Some followers were supportive, others were cruel, sensing that her perfect life had been a facade all along. Finally, some real content. So it was all fake? Where's the luxury lifestyle now? Her follower count started dropping. Not dramatically, but steadily. A few hundred per day, then a few thousand. The algorithm noticed decreased engagement and stopped promoting her content. More sponsors pulled out. A clothing brand, a meal prep company, a skincare line. Each loss meant less income, more financial pressure. She tried to pivot, posting authenticity content about struggling and overcoming and resilience. But her audience didn't follow her for authenticity. They followed her for aspiration, for the fantasy that they too could have a perfect life. Without the fantasy, she was just another person with problems. In mid-November, Diane called me. "Madison reached out," she said quietly. "She's desperate, Richard. She asked if I could talk to you, convince you to help them." "What did you tell her?" "I told her I'd try. But Richard, what do you want me to say?" "Tell her that I hope she figures it out." "That's all?" "That's all." Diane sighed. "She's still your daughter." "I know exactly who she is." "And Cole?" "Cole made his choices. Now he lives with them. She's talking about filing for bankruptcy. They might lose the house." "Then they'll lose the house." Silence on the line. Then, "I don't recognize you anymore." "Good. The person you recognized let people walk all over him. That person is gone." She hung up without saying goodbye. Late November. The first snow came early, dusting the city in white that turned gray and slushy within hours. Madison posted less and less. Her last major post was a long caption about toxic family members and setting boundaries and choosing yourself. She didn't mention me by name, but it was obvious. The comments filled with support from people who didn't know the full story, who saw her as a victim of a controlling parent. Let them think what they wanted. I'd learned that the truth didn't matter to people who'd already chosen their narrative. Cole's situation accelerated. One of his gyms, the original location, the one he was most proud of, started hemorrhaging members. Competition opened nearby, offering cheaper rates. His overhead was too high to match their prices. Members left in droves. By the end of November, he'd closed the location. The equipment was sold at a loss to cover outstanding debts. His gym empire had shrunk from 3 locations to 1 struggling facility. The banks were closing in. The mortgage entered pre-foreclosure. They had 60 days to cure the default, meaning pay everything owed, plus penalties and fees, or the house would be auctioned. They listed it for sale, hoping to at least escape with their credit intact. But the market had shifted. Interest rates were high. Comparable homes were sitting unsold for months. The offers they received were all below what they owed. Madison's car was repossessed first. The BMW she'd posed with in 100 TikToks vanished from their driveway one morning. She posted about it, trying to spin it as downsizing and realizing material things don't matter. But the desperation was obvious. Then Cole's Mercedes. Same story. They were driving a used Honda Cole had bought cash from someone online. 10 years old, high mileage. It ran, barely. In early December, Madison tried to reach out one more time. Not by phone, but through a letter. Handwritten, delivered by regular mail. Dad, I know you're angry. I know I hurt you, and I'm sorry. I should never have made that video. I should have defended you when Cole was disrespectful. I've made mistakes, and I'm paying for them. We're losing everything. The house is in foreclosure. Cole's businesses are failing. I can't keep up with my content because I'm too anxious and depressed. My career is over. I don't know what to do. I'm not asking you to fix everything. I'm just asking you to talk to me. Please. I'm your daughter. I love you. I need you. Please call me. I read it twice, then filed it away with the other documents. I felt nothing. That's not quite true. I felt satisfaction. I felt vindication. I felt the cold pleasure of watching a plan unfold exactly as designed. But I felt no guilt, no regret, no urge to save her. Gerald called me around the same time. Richard, I have to ask, are you happy with how this is going? Very. Because you could stop it. You could reinstate the guarantees, restructure things. They'd still be in trouble, but they wouldn't lose everything. I know. And you're choosing not to. That's correct. He was quiet. You're a harder man than I thought. No, I'm just done being soft. The foreclosure auction was scheduled for December 27th. Their house would be sold on the courthouse steps to whoever bid highest. They'd receive whatever money was left after the bank recouped their losses, which would be almost nothing. They'd be homeless. Cole tried one final desperate move. He came to my apartment in mid-December with a lawyer. They demanded to speak with me. I let them in, curious to see what they'd try. The lawyer was young, probably fresh out of school, clearly uncomfortable. Cole looked terrible, unshaven, dark circles under his eyes, wearing clothes that hadn't been washed in days. Mr. Hale, the lawyer began, my client believes you've acted in bad faith regarding your guarantor obligations. He's prepared to file suit for financial harm and emotional distress. On what grounds? You withdrew your guarantees in retaliation for a personal dispute, causing foreseeable harm to my client's business and family. I withdrew my guarantees because I no longer wish to be financially responsible for his debts. That's my legal right, as I'm sure you know. The lawyer shifted. He believes your actions were punitive and malicious. I don't care what he believes. Do you have an actual legal argument? The lawyer looked at Cole, who was staring at me with pure hatred. You did this on purpose, Cole said quietly. You destroyed us on purpose. I removed my financial support. What you built on that foundation was your choice. You're a vindictive old man. You couldn't stand that we were successful without you. You were never successful without me. That was the point. He lunged at me, but the lawyer grabbed him, held him back. Cole, don't. That's exactly what he wants. Cole was shaking with rage, his fists clenched. You're going to pay for this. One way or another, you're going to pay. Get out of my apartment, and take your lawyer with you. They left. The lawyer looked embarrassed. Cole looked broken. I knew what came next. Christmas Eve. I got a call from Madison. I almost didn't answer, but something made me pick up. Dad. Her voice was hollow. We lost the house. The foreclosure went through early. We have to be out by the day after Christmas. I'm sorry to hear that. Are you? Are you really sorry? Because it feels like you wanted this, like you planned it. Madison, don't. Just don't. I know what you did. I know you pulled all the guarantees on purpose. I know you've been watching us fall apart and doing nothing. You made choices. You deal with consequences. I made a stupid TikTok. That's what this is about, isn't it? I made a stupid video and you decided to ruin my life. This isn't about a video. Then what? What did I do that was so terrible that you'd destroy me? I'm your daughter. You stopped being my daughter when you let your husband punch me in my own home and then filmed me at dinner like I was content. You stopped being my daughter when you built your entire life on my money and then mocked me publicly for being unsuccessful. You stopped being my daughter when you chose him over basic human decency. Silence. Then crying. We're going to be homeless. Do you understand that? Homeless. We have nowhere to go. Cole's family won't help us. My friends aren't returning my calls. We have nothing. Then you'll figure it out. How can you be so cold? I learned from the best. She hung up. I sat in the silence of my apartment, looking at the Christmas tree I'd put up out of habit. Small, simple, no presents underneath. I'd spent every Christmas for the last 37 years with family. This year, I'd spend it alone. I didn't mind. Christmas morning, I woke early, made coffee, and watched the snow fall outside my window. My phone buzzed. A text from Diane. I hope you're happy. Madison called me last night sobbing. They're packing what they can fit in their car and leaving the rest. She sounds broken, Richard. Completely broken. I hope your revenge was worth it. I didn't reply. Around noon, my phone rang. Unknown number. Is this Richard Hale? Speaking. This is Officer Morrison with the city police. I'm calling about a situation involving your daughter and son-in-law. They're claiming harassment and threatening behavior on your part. We'd like you to come to the station to answer some questions. My pulse didn't even quicken. When? As soon as possible. Today, if you can. I'll be there in an hour. I drove to the station carefully, the roads slick with melting snow. At the desk, I asked for Officer Morrison. He was middle-aged, tired-looking, clearly not thrilled to be working Christmas. Mr. Hale, thanks for coming in. I want to be up front. This is mostly a formality. Your daughter and her husband made some serious accusations, but when we pressed for details, the story got pretty thin. What are they claiming? Financial coercion? Threats? Harassment? They say you've been systematically destroying their finances as revenge for a family disagreement. Did they mention that Cole assaulted me in my home several months ago? Morrison's eyebrows raised. No, they didn't. I have medical records, emergency room visit, cracked cheekbone. I didn't press charges because I was trying to keep it in the family. That was a mistake. Do you have those records with you? I pulled out my phone, showed him the photos I'd taken of the ER documentation. Morrison studied them. And the financial stuff? They're claiming you sabotaged their loans. I withdrew as guarantor on several loans and contracts. That's my legal right. I'm not obligated to remain financially responsible for another adult's debts, family or not. Did you do it to harm them? I did it because I no longer trusted them to honor their obligations, and I didn't want to be liable when they failed, which they did. Morrison nodded slowly. So, legally speaking, you haven't done anything wrong. Correct. He sighed. Mr. Hale, I'm going to be honest. This smells like a family dispute that got out of hand. Your son-in-law seems volatile. Your daughter seems desperate. I don't think there's any criminal activity here, but I'd recommend you be careful. Document everything. If they contact you, don't engage. If they threaten you, call us immediately. I understand, and maybe consider a restraining order if they keep pushing. I'll think about it. I drove home feeling that same cold satisfaction. They'd tried to use the police against me and failed. Every move they made I'd anticipated. Every attack they launched, I'd already defended against. The evening of December 26th, I received an invitation, hand-delivered to my door by someone I didn't recognize. Inside the envelope, a card. You are invited to Christmas dinner, December 27th, 6 p.m., Madison and Cole's residence. I stared at it for a long time. They were inviting me to the house they were about to lose, for a dinner they could barely afford, on the last night before they'd be forced out. It was either a peace offering or a trap. I called Gerald. They've invited me to dinner. What do you think? I think it's a bad idea. They're desperate. Desperate people are unpredictable. I think I should go. Richard, I've come this far. I want to see it through. At least be smart about it. Tell someone where you'll be. Keep your phone on. Record the conversation if you can. And for God's sake, if things get physical, leave immediately. I will. I mean it. Don't be a hero. Don't be stupid. You've won already. Don't throw it away. Noted. But I was going. I had to. This wasn't finished. Not yet. December 27th, 6 p.m. I dressed carefully. My best gray suit, the one I'd worn to Madison's wedding. A tie. Polished shoes. If this was going to be the final scene, I wanted to look the part. The drive to their house, soon to be someone else's house, took 20 minutes. The neighborhood was upscale, the kind of place where everyone had 2-car garages and professionally decorated lawns. Christmas lights still twinkled on some houses, though Madison and Cole's was dark except for the porch light. I parked on the street and sat for a moment, gathering my thoughts. The bruise on my face had mostly faded, but I could still see the yellow-green tinge under my eye in the rearview mirror. A reminder. I walked to the door and knocked. Madison answered. She'd aged years in the past few months. Dark circles under her eyes, hair pulled back in a messy ponytail, no makeup. She was wearing jeans and a sweater that looked old, worn, no ring light, no phone in hand. Dad, you came. You invited me. She stepped aside. The house was different. Most of the furniture was gone, already sold or moved. The walls had light squares where pictures had hung. Boxes were stacked in corners, packed and sealed. Cole was in the dining room setting the table. The table I'd helped them pick out 2 years ago, the one they'd been so excited about. He looked up when I entered, his expression unreadable. Richard, thanks for coming. I didn't respond. Just took in the scene. The table was set for 3. Cheap plates, not the expensive china they used to use. A roasted chicken in the center, probably from a grocery store. Some vegetables. A bottle of wine. Madison gestured to a chair. Please sit. I sat, cautious. My phone was in my pocket, recording. Gerald's advice. Cole sat across from me. Madison took the seat at the end, between us. For a long moment, no one spoke. Then Madison said, We wanted to see you one more time before we leave. Where are you going? Cole's cousin has a place upstate. We can stay there for a while, figure things out. I might get a regular job, marketing maybe. Cole's going to try to find work at a gym, training. We'll rebuild. I see. Cole poured wine. His hands were steady, but I could see the tension in his shoulders. I want to say something, Richard. Go ahead. I was wrong. About a lot of things. I disrespected you. I thought I was better than you, smarter, more successful. I thought you were just some old guy who didn't understand the modern world. He paused, swallowing hard. And I put my hands on you. In your own home. That was wrong. I've thought about it every day since. I waited. I'm not asking for forgiveness. I just wanted you to know that I understand what I did. And I'm sorry. Madison's eyes were shining with tears. I'm sorry too, Dad. The video, the things I said, the way I treated you, it was cruel. You helped us so much, and I turned around and mocked you. I was so caught up in my image, in my brand, that I forgot you were a real person. I forgot you had feelings. I looked at both of them. Madison crying, Cole trying to hold it together. Is this why you invited me? To apologize? We thought you deserved that, Madison said, before everything ends. Everything already ended, months ago. Cole flinched. We know what you did. Pulling the guarantees, watching us fall apart. You had every right. Did I? Yes. He met my eyes. I hit you. I threatened you. I made you feel small in your own home. If someone did that to Madison, I'd burn their world down. So, yeah, you had the right. I felt something shift in my chest, just slightly. You understand this was never about money. I know, Madison said. It was about respect, about being seen, about us treating you like you mattered. And now that you've lost everything, now you see? She nodded, tears streaming down her face. I see, Dad. I see everything. I see who I became. I see how shallow I was. I see how much I hurt you. And you think an apology fixes that? No, nothing fixes it, but we needed to say it anyway. We sat in silence. The chicken grew cold on the table. No one was eating. Finally, Cole stood up. There's one more thing. He walked to the kitchen and returned with something in his hand. A black envelope. He placed it on the table in front of me. My turn. I reached into my jacket pocket and pulled out my own black envelope. Placed it on the table in front of him. Merry Christmas, Cole. His face went pale. What is this? Open it. He picked it up with shaking hands, tore it open. As he read, the color drained completely from his face. His hands trembled. Madison leaned over. What is it, babe? Inside my envelope were documents, legal documents, every guarantee I'd withdrawn, reinstated, every loan, restructured with my signature, the house, mortgage caught up, foreclosure canceled, the gym, new equipment loan approved, favorable terms, a business plan I'd written with Gerald's help, showing Cole exactly how to stabilize his remaining location and eventually expand again properly, and a check, large enough to cover their immediate debts, give them breathing room, let them start over. Cole stared at the papers, then at me. I don't understand. You said I destroyed you on purpose. You were right, I did. Because you needed to be destroyed. The version of you that hit me, that disrespected me, that thought power came from intimidation. That person needed to stop existing. I looked at Madison. And you. The person who valued followers over family, who turned everything into content, who couldn't tell the difference between authentic and real. That person needed to stop existing too. Madison's hand covered her mouth. You've spent 6 months losing everything, watching your world collapse, feeling helpless, feeling small. That's what you did to me. That's what I wanted you to understand. So this was all a lesson? Cole's voice was hoarse. Yes. You could have stopped at any time? Yes. Madison started crying harder. You let us suffer for 6 months to teach us a lesson. I let you experience consequences. There's a difference. Every single thing that happened to you was the natural result of your choices. I just removed my protection and let reality do the work. Cole was staring at the documents like they might disappear. And now? Now you have a choice. Take the help, all of it, and rebuild. But do it right this time. With humility, with respect, with actual hard work, not borrowed money and false confidence. And if we do, then maybe eventually we can be a family again. A real one, not one based on performance and image, but on actual human connection. Madison stood up, came around the table and hugged me. She was sobbing into my shoulder, her whole body shaking. I'm so sorry, Dad. I'm so sorry. I patted her back awkwardly. I wasn't ready to forgive, not completely, but I was ready to let them try to earn it. Cole just sat there, staring at the papers. Then he looked up at me, and I saw something in his eyes I'd never seen before. Genuine respect. Why? He asked simply. Because you're still my daughter's husband. Because she loves you. And because everyone deserves a second chance, if they've learned the lesson the first time around. He nodded slowly, then stood and extended his hand. I looked at it for a long moment before shaking it. His grip was firm, but not aggressive. Different. "Thank you," he said. "I won't waste this." "See that you don't." Madison pulled back, wiping her eyes. "What about the house? Can we stay?" "The foreclosure is canceled. You can stay, but you'll make the payments yourselves from now on. No more guarantees. You stand on your own." "We will. I promise we will." I stood up, adjusting my tie. I should go. "Dad, wait. Won't you stay? Eat with us?" I looked at the cold chicken, the cheap wine, the sparse table in the nearly empty house. "Not tonight, but maybe next week, when you're settled." "Next week," she agreed. "I'll cook. Something real, not for content. Just for us." "I'd like that." As I walked to the door, Cole called out, "Richard?" I turned. "The black envelope you gave us, the documents, the help. It must have taken months to prepare." "It did. So you were planning to help us all along, even while we were suffering. I was planning to give you the choice. Suffer and learn, or suffer and stay broken. You chose to learn. That's why you get the help." He nodded slowly, understanding. I drove home through the quiet streets, Christmas lights glowing in windows, families inside celebrating together. My phone buzzed. A text from Diane. "Madison just called me. She could barely talk through crying. She says you saved them. She says she understands now. Richard, I'm proud of you. Not for the revenge, but for the mercy, for knowing when to stop." I smiled, typing back. "Not mercy, justice. There's a difference." "Is there?" "Justice is optional. Balance is mandatory." "What does that mean?" "It means they hurt me, so they needed to hurt too. But I'm not a monster. I'm just a father who demanded respect, and finally got it." I arrived home, parked, and sat in the car for a few minutes. The bruise on my face was nearly invisible now. In a few weeks, it would be gone completely, like it never happened. But I'd remember. They'd remember. And that was the point. I stood at my apartment window, looking out at the city lights, thinking about balance, about systems and structures, about how easy it is to break something and how hard it is to rebuild it right. My phone buzzed again. Madison. "Dad, I was looking through the business plan you put together. It's brilliant. It's exactly what Cole needs. How did you know?" I smiled. I watched. I learned. I understood his mistakes better than he did. "Will you help him implement it? Advise him?" "If he asks. Genuinely asks." "He will. He's different now. We both are." "Good. That's good." A pause. Then, "I love you, Dad." "I love you too, sweetheart." After we hung up, I poured myself a glass of scotch and sat in my leather chair, the good one I'd bought myself after the divorce. Comfortable, worn, real. I thought about the last 6 months, the planning, the execution, the satisfaction of watching a plan unfold perfectly, the cold pleasure of consequences finally catching up with people who'd thought they were immune. Some people would call what I did cruel. They'd say a father should forgive, should help unconditionally, should turn the other cheek. Those people had never been punched in their own home by their daughter's husband. Those people had never been turned into a joke for millions of strangers. Those people had never watched their child become someone unrecognizable. I'd given Madison and Cole something more valuable than forgiveness. I'd given them the truth. The truth that actions have consequences. The truth that respect is earned, not assumed. The truth that the world doesn't owe them success just because they want it. And I'd given them a second chance, but only after they'd proven they understood the lesson. That's not cruelty, that's love. The hard kind, the kind that requires strength, the kind that hurts before it heals. I finished my scotch and set the glass down. Tomorrow, I'd call Madison and set up that dinner. We'd sit around a table, eat real food, have real conversation. We'd start rebuilding something that had been broken for far longer than 6 months. But tonight, I'd earned the right to sit in my chair, in my apartment, in the life I'd built with my own hands, and feel satisfied. I'd taught them a lesson they'd never forget. And in the end, I'd won. Not because I'd destroyed them, though I could have, completely and permanently, but because I'd broken them down and forced them to rebuild themselves into better people. That was the real victory. Not revenge for revenge's sake, but transformation. Not punishment, but education. Cole would never raise his hand to anyone again. He'd remember what happened when he did. He'd remember how completely his world collapsed. He'd remember standing in that empty house with nothing, feeling helpless, feeling small. Madison would never turn a real person into content again. She'd remember losing everything she'd built on false foundations. She'd remember the hollow feeling of followers disappearing when the fantasy cracked. She'd remember that authenticity means vulnerability, not performance. They'd remember. They'd learn. They'd be better. And I'd still be standing, exactly where I'd always been. In control, aware, patient, and utterly unwilling to be disrespected again. I picked up the black envelope Cole had tried to give me, the one that sat unopened on my desk. Inside would be their apology in some form, probably a letter, maybe photos, something sentimental. I didn't need to open it. I already knew what it said. I'd seen it in their eyes at dinner, heard it in their voices. The apology was real, but I'd keep the envelope anyway, unopened. A reminder that some things are more powerful left unexplored, left potential rather than realized. A reminder that I'd won.